Warpugs! So, we're going back to Vrax. In a way, not really back to Vrax, but you guys get it. This is from Invicta. This is the first time I'm seeing anything from this channel. And this is talking about the true size of the Krieg siege army. Now, Krieg is special in the Imperium, as it's one of the few planets that can actually field full armies. There's only a few of them that are allowed to field combined arms armies. And the reason behind that is because of the near nothing of Krieg regiments who have turned traitor. In fact, it takes a lot of warp shenanigans for that to actually happen. Now, with Krieg in and of itself, it is allowed to form entire armies from the ground up. Infantry, armor, cav, artillery, the whole 9 yards. It's allowed to do everything. And like I said, it is very, very rare. I'm not even sure if there's 5 total planets that are allowed to do that. The size of Krieg armies, because of the nature of the warfare they engage in, is a lot larger than your typical Astra Militarum regiment. They do not really follow the Codex Astartes at all. It's a joke, and it was a bad one. I realized we went halfway with what I said, but still, guys, let's jump into this. Forgive Krieg, and the Emperor protects.
Krieg once stood as a prosperous and industrious jewel of the Empire.
Not anymore.
Until it was destroyed by over 500 years of atomic-fueled civil war. But from this death world bloomed a new kind of life. Legions of Krieg's troops inured to the atrocities of war, ready to lay down their lives for the Emperor as atonement for the sins of their fathers. And so their tithe of Imperial troops is among the most coveted in the galaxy, and their presence on the battlefield is most feared. From the mobilization of combined arms death corps numbering in the millions, to the engineering of sprawling siege works with which they choke off their foes, the unending deluge of bombardments they use to pummel foes into the mud, and the inexhaustible waves of troops with which they dominate the hellish landscape of their own creation. Such forces can only truly be appreciated at scale.
Yes.
This is the true size of a Krieg siege army.
So this might have the same numerical numbers. Guys, ever since Easter, I have had a hard time speaking the English language. I do apologize. But we're going to see here if this matches up with the 88th Siege Army that we saw in combat at Vrax. But chances are it's going to be either close to or exactly the same, just because of the nature of Krieg warfare. And I'm sorry, I'm coughing a lot.
So if you love these types of videos in the world of Warhammer 40,000, I can highly recommend the game Tacticus, which is today's sponsor. Now, I've been playing this game for over a year now. I am super addicted. I play almost daily, and I love it. So essentially what you're going to be doing in this game is making a team of characters to fight tactical, crunchy battles. There are a whole bunch of factions in the game. I've collected most of the characters at this point.
If you play Tau in this, just don't.
And I love it. Each of the different factions comes with its special traits. For instance, the Necrons have this living metal.
Do you see how ugly that is on the screen right now, right in the middle of the screen? Just look how ugly that is.
Feature, which allows them to heal at the start of each round. Otherwise, Nurgle, for instance, is very flavorful. They have a contagion ability, which strips away and sunders enemy armor. And then beyond that, once you get into each character, they all are going to have their different stats, abilities, passives, actives, and you put that all together with all these synergies, and it makes for a very dynamic battlefield. The battles themselves are going to see you deploy about 5 characters and then fight the enemies in turn-based movements on a hex-based grid map. Height, line of sight, elevation, terrain that is impassable. It all matters, and it makes for very flavorful and rewarding combat. Now what you're going to be doing in the game is engaging in a lot of different forms of combat. So for instance, the core gameplay that you're going to start off with is going to be the 8 different campaigns that you play that focuses on a separate faction. Once you master that, you can move on to the elite mode of each of those, so that's 16 campaigns. Then beyond that, you have salvage missions where you can go and collect in-game currency. You then have onslaught, which is wave-based, which allows you to then progress and upgrade your characters. Then there's arena, where you can test your mettle against other characters. And there's all sorts of weekly and monthly special events that really change it up.
I will have this in the description down below, guys. If this is something that interests you, please check it out.
So for instance, right now is a good time to jump in for the holidays because they have a lot of great rewards, a lot of cool characters, and for instance right here I have my blessed requisitions, which allow me to pull a bunch of new characters that I didn't have before. In addition to that,
a Tyrannid coming out of a drop pod is not something that I ever want to see ever again. Thank you.
I've been able to level up a lot of other characters like Snotflaga. So you can see here, I got him all the way up to Diamond. And now that means I unlock the Rogue Trader, which then has knock-on effects where I can spend his shards, go towards the progression of other characters, and really scratch my itch when it comes to unlocking everything in this game. So I can't recommend Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus enough as a personal addict. I think you should get addicted to. And the holidays is a great time to jump in because they have a lot of special rewards, a lot of...
I say no to addictions. Addictions are how you become Tau.
Goodies going out, including our own, which you can find in the description.
Let's
so check
go.
it out, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
The planet of Krieg is located to the...
I really like this map. I really, really like this map, and this is one I have never seen before. And that's a statement, because I look at a lot of maps. Let's go.
Galactic southwest of Terra, in the Uhulus sector of the segmentum Tempestus. In millennia past, it had arisen as a thriving hive world of the Imperium. However, over the years, its rulers came to harbour a deep resentment for the tithes levied upon them by the Departamento Munitor, with the most powerful oligarchs fearing that the only true threat to their grip on the planet came from outsiders. Thus, they began to grow more insular, investing vast resources into private armies and colossal military fortifications.
Yep.
Such moves came to a head in the year 433 of M40.
In fact, if you ask the average Krieger about the ruling nobles of Krieg prior to... I can't remember exactly what they were called. Maybe the Tetrarch or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember the exact name because basically I'm just sitting down and I haven't just going straight into this. But if you ask the average Krieger who's worse, Horus or this guy, they're probably going to say, you know, it's up in the air.
It was then that the high autocrat of the largest hive city renounced the emperor, imposed martial law, and declared that Krieg was now an independent planet.
Always a good idea.
As this heretical movement swept across the land, loyalist factions rose to oppose them.
Jurgen.
Yet they were few in number and destined to be overrun.
The betrayal of Krieg was pretty much almost instantaneous. They didn't... The leaders of this rebellion did not... They basically didn't say anything until, quite simply put, all of the loyalist forces that would be left on the planet would be in compromised positions or surrounded.
Thus, in their last stand, the loyalists chose to unleash atomic weapons upon the traitors, purging the planet of its sins.
Ferrograd.
Millions died in the initial blasts, with untold billions more being claimed by this.
Now, he's summarizing a lot here, but when this happened, Colonel Jurgen... Everyone's okay. But Colonel Jurgen was in Ferrograd. He deposed the local leader who hadn't yet signed on to the rebellion yet. And when that happened, he sent basically a message for help. Well, at the time, they couldn't spare anything for Krieg. So, he was told to resist with every means at his disposal, and then he was sent a coded message because Ferrograd was the storage location for a lot of Boom Boom. And Jurgen, released that Boom Boom for everyone to see.
The societal collapse and nuclear winter which followed. As a consequence, the planet of Krieg would forevermore be transformed into a hellish death world. But this was not the end. For 500 years, the surviving loyalist and secessionist factions fought one another across the nightmarish landscape. Eventually, Krieg would see the Emperor's banner raised in triumph.
Yep.
It did so in the hands of a brutally forged army, the Death Corps.
And just to let you know how destroyed their planet is, once you go outside into the open air and clear in the dingy, dust-filled sky of Krieg, your survival is measured in hours at most. You're going to die. It's just a question of how long it's going to take you to croak. So the nature of Krieg warfare is brutal and extremely fatalistic.
This new military was the product of generations hardened by unending war across an atomic wasteland. A grim, fatalistic, and fanatically loyal people who proved uncompromising in their desire to atone for the sins of their ancestors. Thus, the Krieg made excellent recruits for its newly reinstated imperial administrators. In fact, their tithe to the Astra Militarum is among the highest of all planets as a proportion of their population.
Yep.
But such seemingly untenable contributions are the result of more than just mass mobilization. Indeed,
Vitae birthing
the mass
wombs.
production of troops is also key to maintaining such an elevated output of manpower. According to reports, this is achieved through the use of strict breeding programs and artificial vitae wombs, capable of reliably birthing vast generations of soldiers on a regular basis.
And these are considered highly heretical, but yeah, it's Krieg. Let them have it.
However, rumors persist of accelerated growth programs and even cloning initiatives taking place deep within the bowels of the planet.
It's happening.
Surprisingly, this has failed to draw the wrath of the Adeptus Mechanicus.
I wonder why.
Perhaps this is evidence of their falsehood. Or perhaps it is but another example of the Imperium turning a blind eye to the means by which a desired end is achieved.
This actually happens more often than not, to be honest with you.
In this case, a deep source of effective and loyal troops. But regardless of their origin, we can now turn our attention to the armed forces of Krieg. As with the troops raised from other planets, regiments from Krieg take all manner of forms, such as infantry, mechanized infantry, armored, tank, heavy tank, artillery, and more. However, the most infamous formations are the Krieg siege regiments. Such units are truly a reflection of their home planet. These are regiments numbering upwards of 250,000 troops who bring to bear combined arms and especially artillery for the conducting of grueling warfare in the harshest of environments. Using the Vrax campaign as an example, a siege regiment might be organized as follows. It is also common to see them reinforced by additional independent companies on an ad hoc basis.
So let's take a look at this. 150 infantry companies of 720 men with 3 centaurs. 300 field artillery companies consisting of 92 men with 12 artillery with support. Death Rider companies times 50 with 65 riders per. And the Death Riders, the mounts of the Death Riders are... There's something different. The headquarters company, just about the same size as a regular infantry company, but very specialized. Grenadiers, 720 men, just like a regular infantry company, but times 5. Artillery company, 82 men, 9 artillery with support. That's times 100. Tank companies, 60 men, 10 tanks with support. Support companies, a lot of those. Quartermaster companies and quartermasters, oh my god, their job. Heavy artillery with 74 men, 9 bombards with support. And engineering companies, and you do not want to be a Krieg engineer no matter what they say.
Multiple such regiments and their associated attachments may in turn be grouped together into a corps numbering in the millions. Multiple corps might then be grouped together into armies.
Now, the reason why the Imperium does not allow this sort of thing to happen is the Horus Heresy, and two, the danger of having combined arms teams together where their loyalty cannot be absolutely guaranteed, as in the case of Krieg. The reason why they split it up as such is because if a siege company, if a siege company of Krieg were to turn, if a army were to turn from Krieg, it would be a massive threat to any planet nearby. It's the same reason the Army and Navy were completely split. It's the same reason that they split up artillery companies from infantry companies, tank companies from all the other three.
For instance, the 88th Siege Army present during the Vrax campaign primarily consisted of 4 line corps, 2 assault corps, and 2 artillery corps, with many smaller units swarming around them. It is at this point that we should remember that such formations are far from standardized. After all, the incarnation of any given force is the reflection of each campaign's strategic and logistical needs, in addition to the messy realities of marshalling massive armies. Nothing is as clean and organized as these simplified tables of organization.
Right.
For a more grounded feel for the mobilized armies of Krieg, let us now build its units from the ground up.
Go for it.
We can begin by looking at your typical soldier. They wear a Krieg Imperial Guard uniform. It features a long coat which can be pinned up around the legs for improved mobility. These come in a variety of regimental colors, but tend to feature somber tones of grey, black, blue, brown, and green. Beneath such greatcoats, flak armor, leg wraps, and combat boots help protect a guardsman's body and limbs. The head is protected by a helmet fitted with a respirator gas mask.
Very important.
Load-carrying systems, meanwhile, allow troops to carry bedrolls, entrenching tools, empty sandbags, canteens, rations, and a variety of other gear. Weapons depend on a soldier's role. Generally speaking, though, most infantry carry a Lucius pattern las gun.
Now, the Lucius pattern is very specialized and is only used by Krieg.
Compared to the Cantrell pattern seen among the Cadians, this variant packs more powerful individual shots at the cost of reduced battery life and rate of fire. Other standard issue weapons include frac and crack grenades when available, and bayonets and shovels for close quarters. Alongside the typical soldier, we should also mention the typical rider. While nowhere near as numerous, they are still well worth discussing on account of their iconic place in Krieg military history. Though seemingly out of place, such cavalry units have found a niche in the modern Imperium as scouts and fast attack troops, thanks to their nimbleness and low supply cost. This is made possible by their unique mounts. Krieg steeds are genetically engineered and grown in cloning vats as the perfect warhorse, boasting incredible strength, endurance, aggression, and specialized organs fit for battlefield toughness.
These are the Space Marines of horses. Let's just be clear.
Furthermore, they have been augmented with subdermal armor, osmotic lungs, and a drug injection system which can boost their performance with stimulants and painkillers. Atop these mounts, Krieg soldiers wear similar uniforms to the foot troops, with the main difference being their plasteel breastplate and tall riding boots. For offense, their primary weapon is an explosive-tipped hunting lance. After use or in close quarters, this will be swapped out for a saber or las pistol. Additional gear such as rations, bedrolls, and mission equipment can be stored within one's saddlebags. With this understanding, let us join together individual troops into their various units. We could begin at the lowest level of the squad.
Let's go.
A standard infantry squad consists of 9 guardsmen led by 1 watchmaster, who bears the rank of sergeant. His second-in-command is a corporal, often equipped with a voxcaster for communication with their fellow squads and their HQ. All are armed with a lasgun, with the exception of the gunner, who carries a special weapon such as a melter gun, a plasma gun, a flamer, or a grenade launcher.
You don't want to be in front of that guy ever once he gets a chance to put the flamer on somebody.
A grenadier squad will be similarly organized to an infantry squad. The main difference being that its 10 soldiers will consist of veterans, or at least survivors.
Survivors.
And selected from the rank and file to join this more elite force.
Survivors.
As such, they have access to some improved armor, equipment, and special weaponry. In combat, they will be used to lead assaults, crack key defenses, and maneuver in deadly tactical groups. To do so is a great honor. Grenadiers face tough prospects in battle with a reportedly 80% fatality rate. Thus, they have come to adopt the iconic skull mask in recognition of their fate.
To say that the Grenadiers have a high attrition rate is hilarious. The 80% is actually relatively low. I'd be aiming closer to 90 to 95.
An engineer squad is made up of about 5 specialists of siege warfare, with a watchmaster acting as team lead. They wear shorter tunics for improved mobility and carapace armor for increased protection. The kit of these engineers is a reflection of their operation in both trench and underground environments. Here, their standard primary weapon is the Lucius pattern semi-automatic shotgun. However, other close-quarters weapons may also be adopted, such as flamers, swords, and heavy clubs.
These are the guys that dig tunnels, by the way.
Engineers will also make use of highly specialized weapons for siege warfare, like the mole launcher that fires breaching torpedoes, capable of burrowing through the earth, and fortifications for the precise delivery of catastrophic demolitions. Other explosives will include the usual complement of frac and crack grenades, with the added punch of melter charges against armor and gas canister grenades against biologicals. Beyond this, they carry all manner of gear such as geothermic sensors, mine detectors, digging equipment, wire coils, and more.
The engineer corps of Krieg, these are the true crazies of Krieg. If you really wanted to know, if you want to meet the true psychopaths of Krieg, you look no further than the engineering corps. They're the ones that they tunnel underground, and the fighting they do is unbelievably brutal.
One special piece of equipment, which often finds itself in the hand of Krieg engineers, is the Cyclops Demolition Vehicle. These are small remote-controlled machines with thick armor and treaded or screw-enabled movement, which can navigate their way through the hardiest of environments. Thus do they serve as excellent tools for observation, material transport, and demolition. Other Krieg specialists can be found among the Heavy Weapons Squad. It consists of 3 two-man teams composed of a gunner and a loader. The senior-most gunner acts as the overall squad leader and is typically a corporal. Each team will make use of a heavy weapon suited to the task at hand. The heavy bolter is quite common given its ability to unleash torrents of rocket-propelled explosive rounds capable of tearing apart most infantry targets and even light vehicles. The twin-linked heavy stubber, meanwhile, trades armor-piercing capability for a much higher rate of fire, making it ideal for countering massed formations of light troops.
Think a twin 50 cal and you got it about right.
Mortars fulfill a similar anti-infantry role, whose indirect firing arcs are particularly useful in siege warfare. Here they will be used to bombard enemy positions with all manner of fragmentation, incendiary, and chemical payloads. Other anti-vehicle pieces, such as rocket launchers and las cannons, can also be found. A final group worth mentioning is the Death Rider Squad. It will be composed of 9 Lancers, led by a Ride Master. In most cases, all members of the group will bear the same standard kit, with a lance, a saber, and a las pistol.
And if you thought the attrition rates for the Grenadiers were high, yeah, boy. You're not walking away out of this squad.
However, specific missions may result in deviations. Long-range operations, for instance, often call for a stripped-down kit with 1 or more steeds being tasked with hauling extra supplies or spare materials. Reconnaissance missions, meanwhile, may see weapons traded for observation, communication, and camouflage gear. With these basic squads in mind, we can now begin joining them together into larger units.
Let's go.
The typical Krieg line infantry platoon is made up of 6 infantry squads and 1 command squad, led by a lieutenant, for a total of 65 troops. Assault platoons may see this number swell to over 100 or more men.
You will see this on a great number of occasions where the Krieg platoons are going to be registered as assault platoons, or they're just going to have the straight up numbers.
The headquarters unit consists of a 5-man team. Its commanding officer can be identified by their ornate helmet, shoulder epaulets, and other accentuating gear. However, they rarely boast marks of personal distinction, such as family crests or medals.
Yeah, they don't care about that.
This is because, unlike many other imperial regiments, officers of the Krieg army are not drawn from prideful noble stock. Rather, they are men who have risen from among the rank and file, either because of their ability, their seniority, or their survivability.
And here's the thing, the general progression that you have is everyone starts as a Krieg line trooper, or the other specialization, line trooper, artilleryman, artillerymen, however, what have you. They move up from that to either grenadier or engineer. Once they get through grenadier or engineer, or Death Rider, if they survive that, then they get to move to the position of, I believe it's quartermaster. If they survive that, they may get put up for officer.
Besides them serve other soldiers who have been similarly elevated to the command squad. This includes a flag bearer, a Vox operator, and a pair of specialists.
All right, had to back it up a slight bit.
Who have been similarly elevated to the command squad. This includes a flag bearer, a Vox operator, and a pair of specialists who either carry special weapons or together man a heavy weapons system. Coming in a variety of anti-infantry or anti-armor variants, it will often be mounted on wheels to ensure the piece can be maneuvered or towed with ease. A grenadier platoon will be of similar make to the line infantry platoon.
Yep.
The main difference being that their troops may bring a proportionately higher proportion of special arms and equipment on account of their role as heavy infantry. In some cases, grenadiers will indeed appear in concentrated units such as this one. More often, however, their squads will be dispersed across other infantry formations. The same can be said of engineering platoons, whose roughly 40 members will typically be attached to other forces or vehicle crews.
It's rare.
The heavy weapons platoon.
It's rare to see an entire engineering platoon together.
Platoon is made
unless
of
they're
about
digging
9
tunnels.
heavy weapons squads and 1 command squad, led by a lieutenant for a total of 59 troops. Their composition may vary based on the role of the group. For our model, we have assumed a platoon which boasts 4 fire support squads, bearing heavy bolters or heavy stubbers,
Makes sense.
2 anti-armor squads, bearing las cannons, and 3 mortar squads, bearing mortars.
I like how he does this, how he did
Their
all of this.
5-man command squad consists of a higher-ranking lieutenant who specializes in the use of supporting arms. As with the HQs of other platoons, this officer is again accompanied by a flag bearer, a Vox operator, and a heavy weapons team. As with the infantry, cavalry may at times form into platoon equivalents. In such cases, these units will be composed of about 3 squadrons. These are most suited for scouting and other light cavalry missions. Combat roles are better filled by Death Rider companies made up of 6 squadrons and 1 command squadron led by a lieutenant. Together, these make for fast, hard-hitting units. In battle, they will often be carefully held in reserve. When the time is right, they are then unleashed to break up enemy attacks, to blitz through defensive weak points, or to chase routing units to ensure that they cannot regroup and fight back.
If a Death Rider company goes in, unless the enemy is in full retreat, the Death Rider company is going to suffer horrendous casualties. But Death Rider companies, if you're looking for somebody to stop an orc charge in his tracks, look no further.
Now, let us explore how the various other platoons we have covered will be joined together into their own companies. The typical Krieg line infantry company consists of 10 infantry platoons, 1 heavy weapons platoon, 2 grenadier squads, and 1 command squad led by a captain, for a total of about 735 troops and about 40 heavy weapons pieces. As a side note, a grenadier company is of similar make, with the main difference being that a greater portion of the infantry platoons feature grenadier squads in them. With either company type, the infantry and heavy weapons platoons are organized as previously described. However, we should note that the support weapons of the latter group are seldom concentrated into a single block, being instead broken out by heavy weapons squad type and distributed amongst the infantry platoons.
That works.
Zooming in on the grenadiers, we see how this small group of about 20 men forms the elite core of the overall force. Among them, one will find the greatest concentration of special weapons, as well as a pair of Centaur-class armored utility vehicles. Centaurs measure about 3 meters wide, 4 meters long, and 2.5 meters tall, with a weight hovering around 6 tons.
This is about the 3 meters wide, 4 meters long. This is about the size of a truck.
Across the Astra Militarum, these are most commonly used for logistical purposes, either carrying supplies or towing heavy weapons and artillery. However, when assigned to grenadier units, they are instead employed as rapid troop transports. In this configuration, the vehicles will feature extra armor plating, mounted weaponry, and other utility upgrades such as smoke launchers, minesweepers, and dozer blades.
Now, the dozer blades are there for one purpose alone, to simply shovel barbed wire and mines out of the way. Those dozer blades can take a mine hit.
Moving on to the command squad of our infantry company, we see that it once more boasts a commanding officer, typically a captain, and their staff. These include the usual complement of NCOs and specialists who man a heavy weapons system. Besides them is a wider team, meant to deal with the administrative needs of the unit and allow it to integrate with sibling or parent formations. This staff will most commonly be led by a quartermaster. Such officers are unique to the Krieg as individuals who double as both clerks and medics. In the
Medic. Krieg medic. That is the dumbest term I've ever heard in my life.
Former capacity, they will be tasked with tending to the fuel, the arms, and the ammunition of their unit. In the latter capacity, they will see to the injured, be it the delivery of life-saving care or, more often, a merciful death as dictated by the tenets of the cult of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
In the attrition-heavy battles of the Krieg, both roles go hand in hand, as quartermarters seek to recover as much useful material from the fallen as possible.
Yep.
A behavior that has earned them the grim nickname of carrion eaters. At the company level, we might also expect to see the presence of a commissar. In most Imperial Guard units, they are political officers who keep busy by maintaining the morale and discipline of their units.
With Krieg, however, they have to fulfill a different role. They have to pull back the Krieg line infantry from going and dying needlessly.
Among the Krieg, however, such concerns are noticeably less pressing. Instead, commissars may focus on reining in overzealous commanders or simply be deployed elsewhere. Zooming back out to the headquarter group, we should mention that it will often be issued with a number of centaurs. Unlike those of the Grenadiers, these will more often be loaded with supplies and specialty gear such as communication packages or medical centers. Rounding out its capabilities might also be an attached Death Rider or Sentinel squadron meant to serve as the eyes and ears of the force. Altogether, a Krieg Line Infantry Company is a truly impressive unit, which stands just about double in size to that of its Cadian counterpart. In combat, they will be used to lead assaults, crack vast trench lines, and engaging in the grueling attrition of siege warfare. That is without even taking into account the differing weapon systems, tactics, and doctrines of warfare.
I have often said that if you could take one Primarch, if you could take one Primarch and pair them with a Legion, that would perfectly match them. If you could take a traitor Primarch and make them loyal, who would you attach to them? Krieg would go with Perturabo. They would love Perturabo, okay? They would dig him so hard it wouldn't even be funny. And Perturabo would very much appreciate these guys.
However, we have only begun to scratch the surface of what makes the Krieg military unique. Other companies yet remain to be covered, such as the Assault Infantry Company with its massive transports.
Oh yeah.
The Armored Company with its heavy-hitting tanks, and the Artillery Company with its enormous bombarbs, to name just a few of the elements that make up a part of a combined arms siege regiment. Join us next time as we continue this journey through the true size of the Krieg army.
I love the
What
visualization
topics
of this.
should we cover next? A big thanks to our fans on Patreon and YouTube memberships for supporting the channel, and to the researchers, writers, and artists for making this episode possible. We could
Guys, the Krieg regiments are massive compared to other regiments for one reason alone. They know going in, a Krieg regiment is going to take hideous casualties. It is just the nature of the warfare that Krieg is involved in. And anybody that goes into like 40K and is introduced to Krieg, the first thing they say is, hey, cool uniforms. And the second thing they say is, oh my God, I never want to be on a battlefield with these guys. Krieg, your standard Krieg trooper is going to be a vat-grown, indoctrinated person who has been born with the express purpose of dying for the Emperor. And you cannot convince them otherwise. You can't convince them they'd have a better life. You can't convince them to put down the shovel. It is ingrained in them from childhood. Their entire officer corps went all the way up from line to whatever officer rank they are. There's nobody born into a position in Krieg. You simply have to earn it. So when you talk, so if you're an Imperial Guard general and you're talking to a Krieg captain, that captain survived being an infantryman. He survived being a grenadier. He survived being in a specialized role. He survived one other rank before quartermaster. He survived quartermaster, and then he became an officer. And then he lived throughout being the ranks of officer up until the point where he met you. A Krieg officer is an utter nightmare of an individual. Utter nightmare of an individual. Guys, let me know what you think in the description down below. Krieg. You gotta love it. I need to do a video on Krieg at some point. I need to do videos again. Until next time, Warpugs, all of Invicta's links are going to be in the description down below. Please go check them out. All of my links are going to be there as well. Pick yourself up a shirt at the shop. Join as a member of Patreon for early access. I'll catch you guys next time.